A whirlwind wreaks havoc on a Cambridgeshire village.
It's like a blue flame literally went through the room, and it was terrifying.
Homes and cars are wrecked as Dullingham takes the brunt of last night's storm.
When I did get the door open, I was just confronted by the sky where the ceiling should have been.
Good evening. A full report on the Dullingham tornado in a moment.
And also tonight, is this the voice of Queen Victoria? How those barely audible words have been revealed by sound engineers in Cambridge.
First tonight, the tornado which brought extensive damage and chaos to a Cambridgeshire village. People living at Dullingham near Newmarket say it was a miracle no one was killed.
They don't know where to start. Even villagers who experienced the tornado were stunned at the extent of the damage seen in daylight. Concentrated in one corner of Dullingham, the powerful wind ripped roofs off houses in just a few minutes at 7:30 last night. This bungalow was the first to be hit, destroying the extension they've just spent thousands having re-roofed.
There was a tremendous flash and a big explosion, and when I got hit, then all the lights went. That was obviously the main fuses going. The next thing that I tried to do was come in here to close the door because I still didn't realise the extent of the damage. When I actually forced the door open, I looked up and I could just see the sky.
I just couldn't believe it. It was just as if there'd been an earthquake.
The Spurnings' new car was flattened by their roof when it crashed to the ground several feet away. Across the road, £40,000 worth of renovation work to a house was destroyed. A barn with 13-inch brick walls was wrecked and will cost thousands of pounds to rebuild. The Boot pub stayed open despite severe damage to its roof. All who experienced the tornado still can't quite believe what happened.
Just an almighty bang, a flash, and everything just went blank. As you can see, the roof has gone off the top of the pub. It was just horrendous, frightening.
It seemed to happen in 90 seconds. 1 minute the house was okay, the next minute we were in a state of emergency.
Picked the tree up and it just hit the power line and just saw a big blue flash, electric blue flash, and just everything went bang and the lights went out.
Suddenly, a most frightening experience happened. My wife dropped everything. It was like a blue flame that came right through the house and out the other side. It was terrifying.
As the clearance operation got underway, insurance assessors began to look at the damage. As they counted the financial cost, East Cambridgeshire District Council were trying to help people come to terms with the personal cost. It's just 13 years since they last helped people in nearby Newmarket cope with a similar tornado.
The damage seems to be quite spectacular, quite candidly. I've seen nothing like this myself in isolated incidents at all. And of the buildings, of which I've seen 2 or 3 already, severe damage is obvious.
And Anglia Television's weatherman, Jim Bacon, says the scale of the damage indicates a very powerful tornado.
Well, it looks as if for this country, anyway, it was quite an intense one. The scale for tornadoes, measuring them, ranges from 0 to 12. And in this case, this is probably somewhere between 3 and 5. Fairly typical of the most damaging ones we ever get. The key feature is the cold front, which at 1500, middle of yesterday afternoon, was over Wales and southwest England. Now, that moved quite smartly eastwards during the evening, and with it there were gusty winds, there was very heavy rain, and 1 or 2 of these thunderclouds embedded in that general cloud area. And it's the tornado, a rotating, whirling motion in the air that spirals downwards from the thundercloud that will eventually touch the ground and cause the damage that we all speak of as a tornado.
It'll take days to clear the initial damage, weeks to rebuild roofs, and months to resurrect destroyed buildings. And while villagers are stunned by the scale of the damage, they all agree it's a miracle no one was injured or killed.
A young woman has been found
through a Cambridgeshire village, causing havoc and widespread damage. But what caused the freak weather conditions, and could these scenes be repeated this winter? Also tonight, protests as a health authority makes 150 hospital staff redundant. And those office jokes about Essex girls, just a bit of fun or cause for concern? Good evening. First tonight, a tornado which swept through a small Cambridgeshire village, flattening buildings, is estimated to have caused thousands of pounds worth of damage. By chance, no one was hurt. Witnesses say they saw a flashing blue light as the whirlwind gathered speed, causing havoc in the village of Dullingham near Newmarket. Despite earlier warnings of storm conditions, the Norwich-based Weather Centre tonight said it's impossible to predict where and when a tornado will strike.
The tornado destroyed everything in its path as it tore through Dullingham in just 10 seconds. The freak wind twisted and roared across a field, ripping up trees. The entire roof of a bungalow extension was lifted in the air and thrown over the main roof into the driveway. Flying debris, including a chimney stack, damaged a parked car. Next in the tornado's way, the Boot pub, where customers were enjoying a quiet early evening drink. It lost most of its roof as tiles were hurled across the street. Then down went a 200-year-old barn. Bricks and timbers caved in onto 3 vintage cars and 2 caravans parked inside. Electricity lines were cut, plunging the village into darkness.
I heard the wind, weird. It was a weird noise. And then the rain, heavy rain, and then just the bang. And I just I just sort of fell off the settee. I crawling through the bar to try and find my husband.
Everything just went with an almighty crash, a big blue flashing light, and everything went out. As simple as that.
When you saw corrugated iron has flown past your house, and children at that time are coming in for a Coke and a bag of crisps, it makes you feel how lucky you are that there was no lives lost. Pubs you can rebuild, houses you can build, you can't find another life, can you?
Albert Sperling was in the kitchen of his bungalow washing up when disaster struck. The building took the full force of the wind, doors flew open, he went to shut them. Then there was a flash and a bang.
The power and the force that it took to do this is unbelievable. One cannot believe natural forces could do this. It's worse than the wartime blitzes, I feel.
And when you look out at the back here, you can see it must have cut a swathe right through the fields.
Yes, it's taken 2 very large trees out, or devastated them. It's absolutely flattened my greenhouse, and it's lifted a large conifer that was in the corner of the garden right into the centre of the garden.
Well, from bed and window, I saw the rain becoming more intense, just grew. The sound got louder and the winds didn't stop, and then looked out and just saw the hurricane or whatever it was, tornado, just come straight through the rain. You could see it just swirling, just came out, picked up a tree and just threw everything around.
The owner of the collapsed barn says it's unlikely to be rebuilt because the damage is so extensive.
Having known the building and seen what a substantial place it was, it's unbelievable. And we feel quite dazed about it, really. The path of the hurricane, or I believe it was a tornado, was so narrow that some of the buildings quite close to it were undamaged.
As clearing up continued throughout the day, villagers who were awaiting the arrival of insurance assessors put the cost of the damage at tens of thousands of pounds. It'll take several weeks to put everything right. Memories will last a great deal longer.
The region's had more than its fair share of tornadoes in recent years. This was the scene less than 5 miles from Dullingham when a tornado blew through Newmarket in 1978. 2 years ago, traffic along the busy Norwich to Ipswich road was delayed at Long Stratton as a tornado brought down buildings and stripped tiles off roofs. It was a similar story at Thurton in Norfolk in the spring of last year. At the Norwich Weather Centre, forecasters followed the progress of last night's storm across the eastern counties. They say it was impossible to predict the tornado, although they did warn that there would be storms.
So what we have then, a very active cold front moving west to east across the region with warm air ahead and cold air behind. Now, because cold air is heavier than warm air, it can't actually ride over the top. So what it actually does, it drives in underneath like a wedge, and it actually forces that warm air up very violently, and so everything gets very exciting at that point.
Then it starts to spiral. What sort of speeds are we talking about inside the spiral?
Well, as in the really vigorous ones, in the States, for instance, I mean, you'll actually get upward motions of about 200 knots, but I would suspect that this one was considerably less than that.
Why should that have happened where it did?
Probably just some local little geographical feature. I mean, it could be something as insignificant as a house or a copse of trees or perhaps a little hill, something to just give it that extra little spark in that one particular place.
According to forecasters, there are about 10 or 12 tornadoes in Britain every year, although many blow themselves out well away from homes. Although they did warn that there would be storms last night, there was no way they could have predicted the tornado or pinpointed where it might occur.
And Ivan Moores will be back later in the programme with the outlook for the next few days. Two North